In this class, I am going to explain the difference between loops. In this class, I am going to explain the difference between loops and a switch case statement. The difference between loops and a switch case statement. So here there are three different types of loops are there. There are three different types of loops are there. In that, three different types of loops are there. In that, while loop, for loop and do while loop. While loop, for loop and do while loop. We have seen the programs. We have seen the programs on while loop. We have seen the programs on while loop, do while loop and for loop. In the last videos, that is programs on while loop, and after that is the programs on for loop, and after that the programs on do while loop. So here the do while loop is a loop. It was introduced. The do while loop is a loop. It was introduced after for loop and while loop. Here while loop and for loop, while loop and for loop are the entry level loops. Entry level loops means the while loop, the initialization statement and condition and update statement, either increment or decrement statement, increment or decrement statement. So I want to give a brief about do while loop, then I will go to the differences between loops. I'll go to the first. I will explain the do while loop. This is the continuation of the previous class. This is the continuation of the previous class. The do while loop is the continuation of the previous class, and then afterwards the difference between while loop, for loop and do while loop. The difference between while loop, for loop and do while. And there is a break and continue statements are there. If you want to exit from the loop, if you want to come out from the loop without checking the condition, if you want to come out from the loop, it means that you don't want to execute all the statements, that you don't want to execute all the statements. I want to come out from the middle of the loop. So that will be with the help of this break, and as well as there is a statement, continuous statement. The continuous statement skips the loop, iterating of the statements from the loop. Then afterwards there is a selection control structure. There is a selection control structure, that is a switch case. Then afterwards there is a selection control structure, that is a switch case. The selection control structure is a switch case. So up to this session, at the end of this session, this chapter will be completed. The third chapter will be completed by the end of this session. By the end of this session, the third chapter will be finished. That is decision making statements and looping statements. Decision making statements and looping statements. Decision making statements and looping statements. The do while loop, the do while loop executes the statement first time irrespective of the condition. The do while loop executes the statement first time irrespective of the condition, then check the condition. If it is satisfied, the loop will be rotated. The loop will be rotated. The do while loop first it checks the condition. The do while loop first checks the condition. The condition is satisfied. In the do while loop first it executes the statements. In the do while loop first it executes the statements. In the while loop first it checks the condition. So the difference between do while loop and while loop is the while loop first checks the condition and the do while loop is first execute the statement. First it execute the statements. Okay, then it checks the condition. If the condition is true, then only it again rotate the loop. It again rotate the loop. So the syntax is initialization statement, do statement 1, statement 1. This is do statement 1, do statement 1, initialization statement, that is statement 1, statement 2, increment or decrement statement, while condition and semicolon, while condition and semicolon. It is that we have seen a simple program that is printing the numbers from 1 to 10, printing the numbers from 1 to 10 by using this do while loop. We have seen some programs on do while loop that is printing the numbers from 1 to 10 by using this do while loop. Here the flowchart of this do while loop is, see this flowchart, see this flowchart of this do while loop. Code inside body of do while loop, condition true, then false, end of the loop. Then it is false, end of the loop. Code inside body of do while loop, and then condition, the condition is true, then the statements are executed. Then the statements are executed. Then it is false. I will show you one more program on the do while loop. On the do while loop. One more program on the do while loop. I will show you one more program on the do while loop. New to print the sum of 10 numbers using do while loop. To print the sum of 10 numbers using do while loop. Hash include stdio.h void main Here int I comma sum, that is sum is equals to 0 and I is equals to 1. Sum is equals to 0 and I is equals to 1. Do sum is equals to sum plus I. Sum is equals to sum plus I. I plus plus while I less than or equals to 10, then printf the sum is equals to percentage d comma sum. I'm saving this program with a do loop, do loop 3.c. So here this is the program to print the sum of 10 numbers using do while loop. This is a program to print the sum of 10 numbers using do while loop. So see up here, observe here, observe here. Observe here. Observe here. Do sum is equals to sum plus I. Here I have declared two variables I comma sum. Sum is equals to 0, I is equals to 1. Do within the flower brackets sum is equals to sum plus I, that 0, 0 plus 1, 1, I plus plus, that is 2, 2 less than or equals to 10, yes, and semicolon. So and after that the sum is equals to percentage d comma sum. Save this program, control F9 and no errors here, and see the output. Yes, the sum of 10 numbers is 55. The sum is equals to 55. The sum is equals to 55. So here this is the initialization statement. This is the initialization statement, and this is the increment, update statement, and this is the condition. This is the conditional statement, or this is the condition. This is the condition. Initialization statement, update statement, condition. Here the problem is with D button. Initial statement, update statement, condition statement. These are the commenting lines. and see the output, same output you will get. So I am writing here clear screen after variable declaration, that is CLR SCR, and I want to print the sum of 20 numbers. Just change the condition here, save it and control F9 and then F5, Alt F5, then Alt F5, then Alt F5. Okay, this is the way of writing do while loop. This is the way of writing do while loop. Here the do while loop is especially designed for choice based programs. The do while loop is especially designed for choice based programs. Choice based programs or menu based programs. Choice based or menu based programs. These are used to develop the menu based programs. So the next one is, that is, this is also an example program, nested loops. This is the nested loops. It is possible in C to have a loop within another loop. It is possible in C language. It is possible in C language to have a loop within another loop. It is called a nested loop. It is called a nested loop. It is possible in C to have a loop within another loop. It is called a nested loop. Nested loop construct as an outer loop and a subsequent inner loops. Here the nested loops contains a loop inside a loop. A nested loop contains a loop inside a loop. In simple, we say a nested loop is a loop. Nested loop is a loop inside a another loop. Inside another loop. A loop with inside a loop. With inside a loop. Nested loop is a loop with inside a another loop. That is the concept of nested loop. That is the concept of nested loops. It is possible in C to have a loop within another loop, within the loop. So here the syntax is, you can write any loop within the loop. While loop in a while loop, outer while loop and inner while loop, and for loop, and do while loop and inside a do while loop. And we can combine a looping statement and a decision, that is a branching statement. Looping statement and a decision statement. We can combine the both. A loop inside a loop and a statement, nesting of statements, nesting of loops, and a loop and a decision statement, that is a condition statement. Like that we can write a loop inside a loop. Here see the example for statement, for loop, for statements, and inside again for. A for, outer for is there here and inner for is there. Outer for and inner for. The complexity of the program will increase, very difficult to understand the program if the nesting levels are more. So here the complexity of the program will be increased. The complexity of the program will be increased, and it is very difficult to understand if the nesting levels, nesting of loops or more. Nesting of loop levels or more. So this one is the complexity of the program will be increased if more number of loops or nestings. More number of loops or nestings, it means we can write a loop and inside a loop and inside one more loop. Like that we can include any number of loops, a loop inside a loop, a loop inside a loop, a loop inside a loop. So here the problem is we can write any number of inside loops in a outer loop. Programmatically it does not give any error. Programmatically it does not show any error. So here the problem is so when the loops are increasing, when the looping statements are increasing, it increases the complexity of the program. It increases the complexity of the program. So the complexity of the program will be increased. It is very difficult to understand the nesting of loop levels are more. It is very difficult to understand if the nesting of loop levels are more. The complexity of the program will be increased. It is very difficult to understand if the nesting of loop levels are more. This is a problem with the nesting of loops. This is a problem with the nesting of the loops. So see here, this is an example program of nesting of loops. I will explain this program here. Nesting of loops. I will show you this program here. A new window here, program on nested loops, program on nested loops, hash include stdio.h void main int I comma j clr scr. So here for and using for loop for nesting of the loops. I'm using the for loop for nesting of the loops. I'm using for loop for nesting of the loops. For I is equals to 1, I less than or equals to 5, I plus plus. I'm writing inside a loop that is for j is equals to 1, for j is equals to 1, j less than or equals to 5, j plus plus. Here I am writing a statement printf percentage d comma I, then closing this loop printf percentage slash n for printing a new line, and I am closing this. So here again close. So this is for open up this main function and close this one, and this is for outside loop, and this is for inside loop. Save this file, nest for nest for .c. So execute this program, no errors. Just see the output here. 111, 222, 333, 444, 555, like this. 111, 222, 333, 444, 55, like this. So here I am changing the condition, j less than or equals to high, then save, then execute this program. Now see the effect. 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5. 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4 and 5, 5, 5. So this is the way of writing nesting of loops. So here instead of this I am giving here j. Just see the effect. Instead of I want to print j. Now the output will be different. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here I am giving some space. Just see the effect. Now this one. Again I am giving a space like this here. After this format specifier, compile, then run the program. Okay, so like this the output will be printed. This is the nesting of loops. This is the nesting of loops. So instead of here you can also print any character. So this program I have explained in the TC editor. So main or void main I comma j for I is equals to 1, I less than or equals to 5, I plus plus, and printf slash n for j is equals to 1, j less than or equals to I, j plus plus, percentage d comma I. So this is the example on nesting of loops. And then next, difference between this while and do while. So while condition is checked before entering into the loop. So here while and do while loop. So while condition do while. So the condition is checked before entering into the loop. It is entry tested loop. Minimum iterations is 0. And the do while loop is condition checked after entering into the loop. It is exit tested loop. Minimum iterations is 1. Here the difference between while and do while loop is, in the while loop there are no minimum rotations. If the condition is false at the beginning itself, then the control will come out from the loop. But in the case of do while loop, there is no bother about the condition. The condition true or false, first time it will be executed. So this is the difference between while and do while loop. Then next, so for loop and while loop. Initialization may be either in loop statement or outside the loop. So initialization is always outside the loop. So the difference between for loop and while loop is, in the for loop the initialization is within the loop, and in the while loop the initialization is always outside the loop. So once the statements are executed, then after increment is done. Here increment can be done before or after the execution of the statement. So condition is a relational expression, and condition may be expression or non-zero value. So it is used when initialization and increment is simple. It is used when initialization and increment is simple. It is used when initialization is complex. It is used when initialization is complex, but here it is used when initialization and increment is simple. In a simple way, print 1 to 10, 1 to 20, 2 to 20, 1 to 50. So like that purposes, a for loop is very convenient uh, in writing the programs. But the while loop is in a simple increment or in a complex increment also you can use the while loop. For is entry control loop, while is also entry control loop. For is a entry control loop and while is also entry control loop. So for int condition iteration, that is update statement, here while condition statements, int condition statements, and this is the iteration, that is update statement. Increment, we can write either increment or decrement, inc or dec stat, inc or dec statement st, you can write like this, inc or dec statement, either increment or decrement statement. These are the differences between for loop and while loop. These are the differences between for loop and while loop. Initialization may be either a loop statement or outside the loop, and initialization is always outside the loop. In this case of for loop, it may be inside or outside the loop. But in case of this while loop, it is always outside the loop. So here once the statements are executed, then after increment is done. Here the condition may be expression or non-zero value. Here the condition is a relational expression. Here it is used when initialization is complex. It is used when initialization and increment is simple. While is also entry controlled loop. While is also entry controlled loop. For is entry controlled loop. While condition statements, for intercondition statements. So an infinite loop is a looping construct that does not terminate the loop and execute the loop forever. So here if we did not write the condition properly, then it becomes an infinite loop. Then it becomes an infinite loop. Then it becomes an infinite loop. So here a loop, an infinite loop is a looping construct that does not terminate the loop and execute the loop forever. It is also called an indefinite loop or an endless loop. It is also called as indefinite loop or an endless loop. It is also called as indefinite loop or an endless loop. An infinite loop is useful for those applications that accept the user input and generate the output continuously until the user exits from the application manually. So an infinite loop is useful. An infinite loop is useful for those applications that accepts the user input and generate the output continuously until the user exits from the application manually. So here there is a use of infinite loop is also there. There is a use of infinite loop is also there. That is, it is also called an indefinite loop or endless loop. So when the user wants to break out from the loop, for this purpose there is a break and continue statements are there. For this purpose there is a break and continue statement. Break is used to terminate a loop. immediate exit from the loop. Break is used to terminate a loop, immediate exit from the loop. The break statement is normally used in loop and switch statements. The break statement is normally used in loop and switch statement. Here the break is used to terminate a loop, immediate exit from the loop. The break statement is normally used in loop and switch statements. Loop and switch statements. So this is the loop that have a break statement. This is the flow chart. This is the flow chart that has a break inside a loop. Enter into loop condition. This is the loop condition here. Entering into the loop, and this is the loop condition. And if it false, then out of the loop. When the condition is false at initial stage, then the control come out from the loop. And if the condition is true, then control moves to the statements inside the loop. Then the condition is true, the control moves inside the loop and the statements are executed. And if there is any break statement encountered in the loop, if there is any statement inside the loop, then the control will come out from the loop. If that statement is yes, the control come out from the loop. Otherwise, the control moves to the condition. So this is the flow of execution of a loop which contains a break statement. This is the flow of execution of a loop which contains a break statement. This is a program on it. See here, int n, printf enter the number, scanf %d, comma ampersand n, while n less than 10. If n is equals to 3, then use of break statement, break n minus minus. So whenever the n value becomes 3, then printf use of break statement and the control will come out from the loop. Otherwise the n value is decremented. See here, the output is like this. Enter the number, that is 9. Use of break statements, number is equals to 3. Enter the number, that is 9. Use of break statements, number is equals to 3. Then continue statement. Continue statement is used to skip a part of the loop and execute the loop again from the beginning. The continue statement is used to skip a portion, a part, a single iteration or a portion or a part of the loop again and it executes the loop again from the beginning. It is used in while, do while and for loops only. Here the continue statement is used to skip a part of the loop. And execute the loop again from the beginning. Continue statement is used to skip a part of the loop and execute the loop again from the beginning. It is used in while, do while and for loops only. Do while and for loops only. it skips a part of the a portion or some iterations. Here see the differences between break and continue statement. See the differences between break and continue statement. So exit from the loop immediately. It will skip the current iteration and begin the next iteration of the loop. Syntax is break. Syntax is continue. Break and continue are the keywords. Break and continue are the keywords used in while, comma, do while, for and switch. Used in while, comma, do while, comma, for and switch. Used in while, comma, do while and for loops only. For loops only. The break statement is having an advantage. The break statement is for in switch case statement also. You can use the break statement in switch case, but the continue statement, that is only while, do while and for loops only. So these are the differences between break and continue. These are the differences between break and continue. These are the differences between break and continue statement. The next one is the switch statement. It is a multi-way branching statement. Multi-way branching statement. It is the multi-way branching statement. The switch statement is the multi-way It is a multi-way branching statement. It is used when there is a possibility to make a choice from a number of options. It is used when there is a possibility to make a number of choices. Number of choices in a program. Its expressions can be a character or constant or an integer. Its expressions can be a character or constant or an integer. Or a constant or an integer. Here the switch statement is a multi-way branching statement. The switch statement is a multi-way branching statement. It is used when there is a possibility to make a choice from a number of options. Its expressions can be character constant or an integer. The expressions will be tested again number of case labels. The expressions will be tested against number of case labels. When there is a match between an expression and a case label, the appropriate statement block will be executed. After execution, the break statements makes the control to move outside the switch and starts executing it. This is the syntax of switch statement. This is the syntax of the switch statement. So see this one, switch expression, case constant 1, statements, break, case constant 2, statements, break, case constant n, statements, break, default statements, break. Default statements, break. So here the switch statement, switch expression, case constant 1, statements, break, case constant 2, statements, break, case constant n, statement, and the default case is also there. Default case is also there. Default case, see here, this is the default case. Then next, if none of the case labels doesn't match with the expression, the default block will be executed. The default block get executed. After executing the break statement, makes the control to move outside the switch statement. Here switch case default are keywords. Switch comma case default are keywords. Upon encountering the break statement, switch statement is terminated and goes out of the switch block. So this is an algorithm and this is a simple program. This is a simple program on switch else. This is a simple program on switch else. See here. Switch statement syntax. Switch statement syntax. Switch statement syntax. Switch is a keyword, break is a keyword, default is a keyword. So if none of the case labels doesn't match with the expression, the default block will get executed. After executing the break statement, makes the control to move outside the switch statement. Here case, comma defaults are keywords. Upon encountering the break statement, switch statement is get terminated and goes out of the switch block. So this is an algorithm of this program. Read the character. If it is equals to A or E or I or O or U, then prints it is a oval. Otherwise prints it is not oval. If it is equal to A or E or I or O or U, then prints it is a oval. Otherwise prints it is not oval. So this is the program. Main char ch, printf enter any character, ch is equals to get char, switch ch, case A, case E, case I, case O, case U, print oval, break. Otherwise, if the entered character is not matched with the cases, any one of the case here, then the default block is executed. Then the default block is executed. That is printf not oval break. That is printf not oval break. Printf not oval break. So this is the output of this program. Enter any character. If you have entered E, then it is an open. So this is about this class. In this class I have explained you clearly. So do while and the differences between while loop, for loop and do while loop, and break statement. What is the use of this break statement, and break and continue statements, and continue statement, purpose of the continue statement, and there is a selection control structures, that is switch case and the syntax of the switch case statement and the use of switch case statement, and there is a simple program on switch case statement. The simple program on switch case statement. This is about the third class. End of the class. This is about the loops, and end of the class. Third chapter has been completed. Thank you.